Welcome to TV Africa News. As usual, this is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima, but first are the headlines. Uganda is set to host the 10th East African Petroleum Conference and Exhibition. Ugandan court remands US couple for 2 more weeks. Demonstrators clash with police in eastern DRC. Uganda cranes edge close to quarters after win over Senegal. Welcome once again. Now the news in detail. Uganda is set to host the 10th East African Petroleum Conference and Exhibition. This will run from 9th to 11th May 2023. This was revealed by the State Minister of ICT, Godfrey Kabyanga, as he addressed journalists in Kampala. Ahumuza with more.
This year's East African Petroleum Conference and Exhibition will be hosted by Uganda under the theme East Africa as a Hub for Investment in Exploration and Exploitation of Petroleum Resources for Sustainable Energy and Socio-Economic Development. The conference comes at a time Uganda and Tanzania are at the verge of developing the East African crude oil pipeline from Hoima in western Uganda to Tanga in Tanzania.
Uganda's hosting of the 10th PACE is coming at the opportune time, especially at this point in time when the country has just achieved the final investment decision for the upstream and East African crude oil pipeline projects, and is also concluding the second licensing round and undertaking studies to open up new areas for petroleum exploitation.
According to Engineer Herbert Mugisi from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, the conference will be attended by close to 1,000 participants from different East African states.
This one will bring, it's expected that it will attract over 1,000 participants here in Uganda, and these will include members of the different states, the East African states, because this is a conference organized by the government. The conference will attract private sector investors, it will attract academia, civil society, and members of the fourth estate, the media. It will be a very big opportunity for Uganda, in particular the host, to showcase the developments and the plans we have for developing and exploring. Just like the theme is, we are promoting East Africa as a hub for investment in exploration and exploitation of petroleum resources for sustainable energy and socio-economic development.
Mugizi says the conference will help in promoting investment and also have the East African countries move in a harmonized manner.
For provision of the security deposit, we are proposing that to operate a Forex Bureau, you need a security deposit of 50 million shillings. This has not been there. No, we are saying to operate a money remittance business, you need 50 million shillings. And for Forex bureaus, you need to have a security deposit of 25 million shillings.
On the other hand, the Minister of State for Finance and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, also revealed that Cabinet has resolved to amend the Foreign Currency Act 2004.
A Ugandan court on Tuesday remanded in custody an American couple charged with child trafficking in a case that might just see them serve life in prison if convicted. Nicholas Spencer and his wife Mackenzie Leigh Spencer allegedly tortured and held a 10-year-old boy in a small, cold room without clothes between 2020 and 2022, according to a charge sheet presented by the State Prosecution Service in December 2022. According to the couple's lawyer David Mpanga, they will return to court on February 2nd to hear the progress of the state's investigation. He added that they are charged with aggravated trafficking and aggravated torture. The boy is one of the couple's 3 adopted children who arrived in Uganda in 2017 to volunteer at a US-based non-profit organization in the town of Jinja before moving to Naguru, an upmarket suburb of Kampala, to work in a startup. Authorities in Goma in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have clashed with demonstrators on Wednesday who want the EAC Kenyan forces out of their country.
Around 100 demonstrators gathered to demand the withdrawal of the East African Community forces deployed to fight armed groups in the east of the country. The regional force consists of hundreds of Kenyan and Burundian soldiers. Another 750 soldiers from South Sudan will be joining them soon. According to Gloria Bagaya, one of the demonstrators, they don't want the EAC Kenyan forces to stay in their country as tourists. Frustration is mounting after the Kenyan military organized ceremonies to mark the withdrawal of the M23 rebels and for the EAC to take back control in 2 villages north of Goma in late December and early January. Since the end of October and despite declarations of ceasefire and withdrawal of its troops, the M23 continues to confront the Congolese army and other armed groups.
Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. Son of Equatorial Guinea's President Ruslan Obiang Nsu has been arrested and placed under house arrest on suspicion of selling a plane belonging to the country's national airline, according to state television. According to Sabre Intercontinental, which was since 2018 in routine revision in Spain, at the end of November, the authorities had opened an investigation after noticing the disappearance of the ATR 72-500 aircraft belonging to the national company. According to the same source, Mr. Obiang Nsu would have sold the ATR aircraft to the company Binta Technique, which specializes in aviation maintenance and is based in Las Palmas on the Spanish island of Gran Canaria. Ruslan Obiang Nsu, former Secretary of State for Sports and Youths and current director of Sabre Intercontinental, and then its managing director. The arrest of Ruslan Obiang, one of the president's sons, is unprecedented for a member of the presidential family of the small oil-rich Central African state. Moving on, the conflict between government forces and M23 rebels, allegedly supported by Rwanda, has led tens of thousands of civilians to flee the conflict and end up cutting trees for firewood and timber.
The Virunga National Park in eastern DRC is under threat due to the fact that many of the internally displaced have resorted to cutting down trees for firewood and charcoal. Jean Bosco Vitegani, a displaced person, said that since they have been in the refugee camp, humanitarian aid has not arrived, adding that the majority of the displaced are now in the park and became loggers. Many refugees have sought shelter in the park, home to spectacular species of wildlife, including mountain gorillas. Aside from the displaced, the park authorities have to deal with the local armed militias. Last month, 2 rangers were killed and another wounded by suspected militia men. In less than 2 months, more than 500 acres of forest have been razed to stumps.
Away from that, 18 people, including Ukraine's interior minister and 3 children, were killed in a helicopter crash near a kindergarten outside Kyiv on Wednesday. The helicopter slammed down next to the kindergarten and a residential building in Brovary, a commuter town for the capital Kyiv that was the scene of fierce fighting early in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Amateur footage circulating on social media showed what appeared to be the charred remains of the aircraft mixed with debris from nearby buildings and a car crushed by large shards of metal. Cries could be heard at the scene, which was consumed by a fire. The head of Ukraine's police service, Igor Kelmenko, said in a statement that Interior Minister Denis Monastrisky and his first deputy Evgeny Yenin were both killed killed. The Kyiv region governor Oleksiy Kuleba put the latest death toll from the accident at 18 people, including 3 children. Denis, 42, a trained lawyer, had served as Ukraine's interior minister from July 2021. He was a key member of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's party and was married with 2 children. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. Inflation in Ghana is slowing after peaking at 78.1% in November 2022. According to data collected by the Statistics Service, producer price inflation retreated in December, reaching now at 52.2%.
Last month, consumer price inflation in Ghana accelerated to 54.1% year-on-year, driven by rising fuel, utilities, and food costs. According to experts, the decline in month-on-month producer inflation could represent a positive sign for next month's headline inflation figure. Ghana's troubled steady currency saw rapid appreciation against the dollar in December after a staff-level agreement for a $3 billion IMF support package was reached at the start of that month. It has since fallen back towards record lows.
In our health news today, the Global Fund is said to give Uganda $600 million to help the country in the fight against HIV/AIDS, malaria, and TB between 2024 and 2026. Through the country coordinating mechanisms, which is the national committee that submits funding applications to the Global Fund and overseas grants, Uganda is expected to submit the application to secure the release of the funds. On Wednesday, the country coordinating mechanism for Global Fund organized a consultative meeting with stakeholders on how the money will be prioritized. Speaking during the meeting, the Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Dr. Dana Atwine said there is currently a surge in malaria cases in the country, but noted that the fight should be a collective responsibility. The Health Ministry Permanent Secretary said boarding schools must ensure all learners sleep under treated mosquito nets, but must also fumigate their premises. She said that all these regulations will be included in the implementation of the newly enacted Public Health Act. And finally, in sports, Uganda Cranes edged close to qualifying for the quarterfinals of the African Nations Championship in Algeria. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned.